So which mobile suits are the easiest to play effectively? So that's what we're going to jump into really quick. I think it's a good video, a good tier list to make, so that people who haven't played a lot of these type of games can have an idea for which ones will probably suit them pretty well, starting off in this game. So starting off, we're going to go through the ones that are the tankier characters. We're going to start off with Sazabi. Sazabi is my character that I play a lot. I really like it. It has a very high skill cap. However, for the skill floor, the base skill you need to play it solidly, it's actually still pretty good. Um, it's going to be getting in towards like a mid-high B tier, with S being really easy to play and D being really hard to play. It's getting a B tier because it is forgiving with the fact that it has a shield and heavy damage with its shotgun, but the fact that it has to position well, and the better you get, the more you'll be punished for this sort of mispositioning, micro mispositioning, macro mispositioning, do affect that also. Just in general, the part of it, you having to know more about the game to play this character well, does make it a little bit harder to play. Like I said, it's forgiving, has a shield, has a powerful shotgun, but it's basically like, okay, so we're at S, right? And then it's like, okay, well, yeah, but you don't have very good range, so it drops down to A. And then it's like, yeah, well, you have to understand the game well to be able to play it at a high level, and you need more understanding of the game to play this character than you do like Pale Rider or something. So it drops it down to like a B. And that's generally what Sazabi is going to be landing at. For Dom Trooper is going to be getting a high B. It does a similar sort of thing where it has two main different reasons for why it's getting this. One that's pulling it down, one that's pulling it up. Its aim, the fact that it has a projectile weapon, which are harder to hit than other characters, makes it harder to play. For example, if you played any other sort of game and you played something like Call of Duty, Overwatch, Apex, if you played any sort of game where there's hit scan guns or near hit scan guns, Dom Trooper, those kind of capabilities will cross over really easy into GM Sniper, Ashimar, Pale Rider, etc. But for projectiles, every projectile is different, and you have to learn exactly what its timing is on it. And so developing that skill makes it so it has a higher skill floor. However, the fact that its general gameplay is pretty simple, you put your armor pack onto a teammate that has the desire to go into the enemy, like a Sazabi or a Barbatos or your melee Zaku, and you just pop it on them and they go and they do stuff. It's not really that complicated other than that. So yeah, this is why it's getting slightly above Sazabi in difficulty. Actually, like a decent amount. Like it's high B, close to A. Sazabi is like a lower B. Melee Zaku is going to be in the low C tier. It's pretty hard to play. It doesn't have the same sort of freedoms that Sazabi does, because it doesn't have a shield that you can just put up. It has an ability that allows it to block 30% of the damage that goes onto it, and an ability that makes it block all damage where it completely stays still. But those aren't this sort of, I am super powerful, I shield myself, I walk forward sort of thing. You have to understand this character very well to get like solid value on it. It has a very high skill cap also, but the skill floor is also high. So you have to know a lot. And you have to have a good understanding of the timing of your cooldowns and when to use them and how to maximize your rage ability and stuff like that. Whereas Sazabi is more like push forward, shotgun things in the face, and you'll get a lot of value out of that. So yeah, so Melee Zaku's getting a lower value than that. In addition, with the way its ultimate works too, if there's a group of enemies, you just start swinging into them and start slapping everyone around. It's not too complicated. But that's why it's not like a D tier, because it has not as much aim requirement, and its ultimate isn't super complicated. So why it's on D. Marasai is going to be getting a C tier also, but it's getting a high C tier. So Marasai's like whole value will come into how you use its hook, and its hook is difficult to use effectively. It's not nearly as bad as it was in the network test, but if you don't hit targets with your hook, you shouldn't be playing this character. You won't get a lot of value, just because its damage is pretty lame otherwise. It's not too incredible. So if you don't have a good solid ability with that, you're going to be missing a lot of value, and you're just going to have not as good of a time in general. So that's part of why it's getting a C. It also requires aim for its regular things, its regular primary fire too, so it's not like it's got an auto aim or wide range or wide like width type bullet that it can use, or slash. So that's also lowering it. Um, and the fact it just really has to do with the fact that it has high HP, or has like, it doesn't have high HP, it has moderately high HP, but it's effectively low considering what it wants to do of hooking an enemy and then standing still and killing them. So to be able to survive some of that, you have to use your movement a lot. You have to know when to dash while you hook them and how to maximize, effectively use the combo and stuff like that. So there's a lot of complexity to the character that is necessary to get like a good value out of it. But it's not like so low because of that. Or it isn't pushed like way below D tier because it doesn't have the same sort of I must go in and commit to a fight. For example, you can stand behind a corner, peek, throw out your hook. If you miss it, yeah, you miss it, but you don't die. On something like Barbatos or Exia, if you miss your cooldowns and you go in, you can die. You know, so you actually have to commit your body, and that makes the skill floor a lot higher, or sorry, it makes the skill floor necessary a little bit lower for Marasai. Guntank. Guntank has probably the easiest gameplay in the whole game. Kind of. So, if we're talking about skill floor in regards to how easy it is to play, it's incredibly easy to play. You don't have to aim like barely at all. Its abilities are not complex. You have a missile you toss in the enemy. You have a charge ability, you slap people off of you and you res people faster. And then its ultimate is a piloted bomb. You know, it's not hard to play. You just spam it in groups until you get your ultimate and use your ult. It's really not complex, like at all. But it's not going to get a lot of value from this, so don't take this as like, hey, I should play Guntank, because you shouldn't. It's really bad. I mean, if you want to and have fun with it, go do it. This is for like ranked based, like should you play or not play kind of thing. But you will not have a lot of value in this character. But disregarding that, it's still easy to get its base level of skill floor, essentially. For Zaku is going to be at the basically like the second lowest of any mobile suit for skill floor, because it's extremely difficult to use at a decent level. This character has low HP and it has a low range, which basically is a recipe for high potential with the fact that it does have high damage, but a high necessity for skill. And this character has to, like I said, get close. It has to know when to reload effectively, right? When to hold its bullets, when to dash, when not to dash, when to position, how to position exactly perfectly, when to engage, how to engage, you know, comboing with other teammates engages, things like that. There's a bunch of things about Zaku because it's a flanker and it's a close range flanker that make it have a really high necessity for understanding the character to play it. And because of that, it's going to get a really low rating on our tier list here. Moving on from this, you have Turn A Gundam. Turn A Gundam is going to get a pretty high rating for skill. We're going to put it above Dom Trooper. It would get really high if it wasn't projectile and its biggest source of damage. It would get somewhere up towards the A, but it's going to get a high B. And that's because the projectile is fast, so it's not like a super big deal, but you have an nano skin ability that lets you heal yourself. You have a grapple that lets you get enemies off of you. You can use it in a bunch of different ways, and you don't have to commit your body to do a lot of these things. You don't have to actually physically like push. So you can just stand on an angle slightly off of your team and just spam down with your primary fire, and you'll get a lot of value out of it. Well, I know people tend to have a mentality that like the characters that require a lot of aim or require a lot of skill, and they do in general for like effective play to aim well, but outside of aiming, they're very simple, usually. So because that's what their skill is, that's what their core sense of capability is the fact that they require aim and they get high value for their aim. But usually they don't really benefit as much from high game knowledge and things like that and skill, right? Other skill. So that's why we're putting it at a B. High B. Its ultimate also is like, it's not that good, but it's, you know, you pop it, you fly above people, and you'll get decent value, especially at like lower ranks. Ashimar is also going to get a high rating. It's gonna be about where Turn A Gundam is. Actually, we're gonna put it at a very low A. It's going to be a very low A because of mainly the way that it doesn't have to use a projectile aim. It does have a projectile, but its primary aim is hit scan. So slightly difficult hit scan, but hit scan nonetheless. And with that, it's not too difficult, mainly just because really this character is like, you stand on an off angle, you apply damage, you toss your napalm into groups. If an enemy jumps onto you, you fly away with your transform ability, and that's that. If you have your ultimate and something jumps onto you, you just punch him and then you kill him. It's just really not complex at all. Which doesn't mean, you can't master and get super high skill cap. Not to say that, because you can't. This isn't like me, pooping on characters. This is just discussing like which characters are easiest to get the base solid gameplay level at. And so yeah, Ashimar's a high 7. What am I even saying? Ashimar is like a low A. RX-78 Gundam is a high A. Not only is it one of the strongest suits in the game, but it's also one of the easiest to get a core gameplay value on. And that's because it has good damage. It has a stun ability that's really powerful and can be thrown at range, and it has a big hitbox, so it's easy to hit on the targets you want to hit with it, like Sazabi. And it also has a shield that you can get yourself out of sticky situations with. So basically, it's all very intuitive. You just kind of stand in the middle of your team, you click on things. If something gets too close to you, you hit it with your hyper hammer. If something tries to kill you and you're low HP, you just press your shield and you back up. It's not that complicated. And then when you have your ultimate, you just toss it into like a group of people in a room or something. And you'll get good value out of it. And like, this is all the basic level. I also have a guide about like skill cap, right? Maximum skill cap. And this one does have a high skill cap too, which means the two are not mutually exclusive. But for skill floor, it has a very low skill floor. Meaning it's easy to play. Easy to get good value, solid value on. Barbatos is also going to get really high. And I do have to preface this by saying that the reason it's getting such a high rating in this video in particular is mainly because of how good it is. In the network test, it was just super, super, super powerful. It has really good HP for a flanker. It has a 2-shot combo on any mobile suit in the game. It has a really wide radiuses on its slam abilities. Its longsword ability, its second slam, makes it jump up in the air, so you dodge things just by using the ability. And honestly, it doesn't have to play like a flanker, because you can just run it down straight into Sazabi and slap him in the face. It's not complicated. There's not good enough stuns in this game really to like be a solid counter to it. So you get a lot of skill for just for playing it like really at all. If they nerf it though, it's going to become a lot harder. And if they nerf it, it's going to go drop down to like, probably close to like Zaku level, right? But it's not there right now. Right now it's at the top, and that's just because it's super, super powerful. So, yeah, and just because it's so powerful, it really fundamentally affects its gameplay style. Whereas for Guntank wouldn't change that much if it got buffed, because it doesn't affect its fundamental gameplay style. Barbatos being overpowered and ridiculous like it is, it has the ability to play like it shouldn't be able to, which is just run it down mid and slam someone in the face, because you can do it, because the hitbox is so large in the stun. And yeah, like it's not like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do know, but it's gonna get a high A for this. It's really pretty easy to play, and its ultimate is not that hard either. You just hit it and start clicking on people. You have a wide sweep. You do a lot of damage too. Exia though, last. It is the hardest character to play in the game, and it's because of how you have to engage on every sort of chance you want to try and kill something. You have to physically put your body in the line. The aiming is really difficult because it's a flick shot into tracking with projectiles. It's got a very high chance to die when you're doing things because you have low HP. And so, yes, you have a lot of mobility, but if you make one mistake, you die. Its ultimate also doesn't just give you like pure value like Barbatos does. It doesn't, press it and just sweep through people and go choo, 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 just do 700 damage each slash. It just buffs your other abilities. And if you don't have really good ability on these things, you're not going to get the solid core value that you want. So if you want to play Exia, you're going to have to put a decent amount of time into it. And I don't want this to discourage people from playing Exia, because Exia has a very high potential when you're good at it. You're just going to have to put some time into it, And there's nothing wrong with that. It's fine to put a little bit of commitment into things. But yeah, that's about how Exia is. It really is the hardest one. And just because of the way that its aim is more excessive and the fact that it has not really a get out of jail free card button like Zaku does, and its ultimate is complex, even more complex. It has the lowest skill floor or the highest skill floor of any mobile suit in the game. GM Sniper is going to get it's going to get put up about Sazabi level, although it's very different from Sazabi. The reason it's basically like flat in the middle because of two things. If we're looking at just its aim, yeah, its aim is hard, right? You know, you have to click its head. You have to click the head on fast moving things, assuming they really properly nerfed the hitbox sizes and bullet sizes in this game. And that would put it at like, you know, D, right? So like, oh, it's really hard. But then it's like, yeah, but you don't actually have to do anything other than click on things. So it's like, okay, well, I don't have to click on anything. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to like position super well. I don't have to like maximize my cooldowns. I don't have to do any special text. I don't have to do anything, right? So you have like really hard, really easy, and that's why it's landing right in the middle. Like I said, these things tend to be kind of balanced towards aiming, and I respect people who can aim well because my aim's not that good. But this really still, regardless, I think even the ones who really understand how these things work know that there's so much more to these games than just aim. So flat in the middle. Mahiro, one of our new mobile suits, is going to get a rating around Marasai. It has a similar situation to Marasai where it doesn't have to commit onto things 100%. It doesn't have to do a lot of these things, but its skill shots are, but its weapon is still like a skill shot. Its area of effect cooldown is a skill shot. Its primary fire is definitely a skill shot, especially if you're bouncing off walls and stuff like that. And so it does have a really like high skill to do it, especially if you're like using your ammo properly because you only have 3 shots. So if you waste them, you're not getting a lot of value. You're not like Junkrat that has more in its ammo and it's just spam, right? You have to be a lot more smart about how you use your stuff. And then you also have a dash ability that can be used intelligently and can get you a lot of value. But if you just use it willy-nilly, you're going to suffer. So that's why it's getting about a C. But yeah, because it doesn't have to like hard commit like something like Zaku or Exia does, that's why it's not getting like a B, or sorry, a D. Pale Rider. Pale Rider is one of the easiest characters to play, to be honest. It's about near Gundam and Pale Rider, or Gundam and Barbatos and Ashimar. You just go on a flank and then you click on things. We're gonna lower it a little bit down just because of how it is more aim based. So maybe it's like a very high B, right? It puts all its resources into aiming, even with its ultimate. So that's why it's still getting a decent level. But it's what it has to do with its positioning and going on flanks and stuff is just like, you know how to go to flank, and then you find things and you click on them, and you will get excellent value. Because even if you're not fragging out a lot, people will look at you and distract you, and they'll be distracted by you. Put all their resources into you instead of your team. So same sort of thing as like GM Sniper. Aim hard, move, or gameplay not difficult. So it balances out towards like a high B here. Right, now on to the supportive characters. We have Unicorn Gundam. Unicorn Gundam is actually quite easy to play. It has a hit scan based weapon aiming system, but that's not even where it gets most of its value. Yeah, if you track your enemies and shoot them, you'll get solid value out of it, but it doesn't do a bunch of damage, so it's not like you really have to have good aim. Most of its value will come from just popping armor onto people and standing near your teammates. And it's the way that its healing works is it heals about 30 per second to those that are nearby, and that's not so high. It's high enough that it gives solid value when you're just grouped around your teammates, but it's not so high that you have to make these sort of like really important decisions about risking your life to help your teammate kind of thing that something like Metis does. So it doesn't get a lower rate like Metis will. Spoilers. But Unicorn Gundam also has an ultimate that's very easy to hit. It's just a giant cylinder of death. They're not difficult to hit. You just toss it where the enemies are and you will deal damage for sure. Yeah. So Metis. Metis is going to get not quite as low, but it's still like in the B range. It's just because of the fact that its healing is more like, people from Overwatch, for example, tend to have this perception that Mercy was very, very easy to play. and it had a high skill cap regardless, but it's had a low skill floor also. So you could get to the basic skill floor pretty easily on Mercy. But Metis is a little bit different just because of how the positioning and stuff works on it. Your beam isn't as long and it breaks really easily, so you're more forced into making decisions about where you need to be at a time, like whether you are going to walk into open to risk healing your teammate and risk getting shot, or not, and do those sort of things. But still, it's a lot of value from its standard aim. It gets a decent amount of value from its aim and stuff like that, but it also has a turret that'll aim for it, and there's just a lot of other things that make it way easier. Its ultimate is you just toss it on exactly the same thing as like Dom Trooper. You toss it onto like a Barbatos, you toss it onto a Sosby, an Exia, even like a Zaku, something that'll go in and they go kill. It's not that complicated. So you get a lot of value just for having like a standard general ability. For GM, GM is going to get high B. You can get a lot of value on this character just for kind of existing, because you have a shield. You will win most 1v1s even if you're worse than the enemy player. Like, my aim is worse than a lot of the people I was playing against because I don't tend to play aim-based characters, but I would beat them in 1v1s because I have a shield and they don't, And as long as I dodge any stun cooldowns they threw at me, I win. So that, a self-healing grenade to heal yourself with, a C4 that's easy to just put in a wall and blow it up when enemies walk through, a bash that can peel enemies off you when your positioning is bad, an ultimate that you can just toss at enemies or into rooms and get huge value out of. So it's not too complicated, and the skill floor is pretty high. Sorry, I keep mixing those up. The skill floor is pretty low. It's definitely on the high B, close to A kind of stuff. The only things that are dragging it down is the fact that it does have a lower HP, and the knowing when to push and when not to push will get you a lot of value and will affect a lot of your value. And if you don't understand that decently, then it can be harder. So, looking for some more Gundam Evolution content? Then make sure to check out these 14 mobile suit guides I did. In them, I go over the abilities of the characters, the strengths and weaknesses, when to play them, and how to play them. I go really in depth, and I think the videos are really good, so you guys should go check them out. Thank you.